Hello students. In today's class, um, we will start our topic, wherein I will try to discuss the history of developmental biology. So, in this, uh, we have in the last class studied that uh, where a single cell, which is the fertilized egg, can divide and it activates specific gene expression patterns, and then it produces the complex organism which has many cell types which perform different functions. And um, and this organism, complex organism, has these cell types which perform various different types of roles in the functioning of the body. So uh, so the development is a fundamental part of biology, and the developmental biology specifically deals with complex mechanisms and has many layers of biological information which are superimposed upon one another. So the recent advances of various subjects such as cell biology, molecular biology, genetics, so they further our understanding how this development happened, unlike any time in the past, because those days these newer tools were not available, with which the pace of work was a little slower. So we have to make ourselves aware with specific words such as embryogenesis and organogenesis. So what does embryogenesis mean? Embryogenesis is nothing but embryo formation, and it determines the overall body plan. That means once the egg is fertilized and it further becomes embryo, and then the body plan starts and the whole organism is being produced. Whereas the organogenesis is specifically the organ formation, and it determines the subsections of the body. And the examples are, for example, vertebrate limb or Drosophila eye, specific organ of an of a of an organism, for example. So there are many genes and proteins and signal transduction pathways which participates in this, and um, in this process. So, and like I said, so all these tools converge to give us information. The cell biology, molecular biology, genetics give us information uh, to understand more about the developmental aspects. So there are various model organisms which are used in this topic, and although the people are most interested in human development, and because we are very selfish and we have our own ego, so we want to understand and help ourselves first, than any other species. So many aspects of the development are conserved in distantly related species. So we always relate it with evolution, wherein we say that evolutionary conservation is present. And to understand this, the major model organisms which are used to study this process of development are major. So I will give you a glimpse of them, such as nematodes, C. elegans, fruit fly, which is Drosophila, sea urchin, and frog, which is Xenopus, chick, mouse, and the plant Arabidopsis thaliana. So these are some of the model organisms which let us understand the principles of development. So the first experiment which gave us uh, the clue about development was done by Marcello Malpighi. So he existed between 1646 to 1694, and he was the first person who used these microscopes, and he studied chick embryos in Italy. So he was an Italian, and he studied the chick embryos, particularly the egg, and um, and he used the microscope, early microscope, to record his findings. So he was particularly trained as a medical doctor, and he was among the first scientists who used the microscopy technique to determine embryos at different stages of development. That means at the early stages, how these embryos look like. So he did some kind of drawings, and then which described these the development of these embryos. So Malfigi described the earlier structures in the chick embryos, and later the scientists used his descriptions, and they which helped their theory of formationalism. So this is the field which the further generations took from him, wherein uh, he uh, he studied these chick embryos. So this is how they looked like. His the drawings which he made were recorded, and you can see it started from F1. So you can see how the F1 looks like. Further it proceeded to F2, F3, F4, F5. So how the embryos are formed, you can see here already there is a at F8 he can already show that there is some kind of a whole organism like structure which he could draw and decipher out of it. So he recorded about many hours of the embryo development, and he systematically drew all these pictorially. So as we are talking about embryo, which Malfigi drew, so the genetic program for the embryo development or the embryonic development requires three things: the cell division, differentiation, and morphogenesis. And the embryogenesis is particularly a process by which the embryos are formed and developed, and it particularly, as I said before, it starts with fertilization of a egg cell, which is ova, and the sperm cell, which is spermatozoon. And once they are fertilized, and then this fertilized cell is called as zygote, and this is the cell which is diploid, whereas the egg and the sperm are haploid in nature. So the zygote undergoes mitotic division, and with no significant growth in the beginning, and further at the later stage there is a process called cleavage, and from that stage the cellular differentiation starts and lead to the development of multicellular embryo. So this is a typical example of embryonic development in Xenopus, wherein you can see the egg is fertilized by the sperm. Once the fertilization happens, the zygote is obtained, and gradually after fertilization during the cleavage, that you can see one cell gets divided into two, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and likewise this process is called cleavage. And further these cells keep on dividing during the gastrulation stage, and you can see here there is a blastula and the blastopore formation during the gastrulation. And after this gastrulation and during this gastrulation, you can see different layers of cells are formed. So there are series of layers such as mesoderm, endoderm, ectoderm, and which will become further different cells of the body. And then there is also the neurulation happens, neurula is formed in this, and which further by organogenesis gives rise to different organs, the tail bud, and further gives rise to later tail bud, and this is a tadpole. Further the metamorphosis happens, wherein so this tadpole form gets converted to the adult frog. So this is in short the whole process of embryonic development, which we will cover in the later stages as well. So how does this history start? So the early embryologists were Aristotle in 300 BC, and his thoughts were credited with one notion on the first notion on embryology, and followed by William Harvey in 1600s, he hypothesized that all the animals, they originate from an egg. That was his thinking, and then followed by Marconi Malpighi. Like I showed you, he drew the micrograph pictures and of developing chick embryos during late 1600s. So William Harvey was in the mid 1600s and Malpighi was in the late 1600s. So he drew these pictures of chick embryos, and this started the debate between the pre-formationalists and the epigeneticists. So during the 17th and the 18th century, so it was a matter of debate, the epigenesis or pre-formation. So there are a list of pre-formationists such as Jan Swammerdam in 1672, Malpighi in 1672, Nicholas Malebranche in 1673, Nicholas Hartsocker in 1694, and Charles Bonnet in 1762, whereas the epigeneticists are William Harvey in 1651, the René Descartes in 1664, Pierre Maupertuis in 1745. So the pre-formationists had again two beliefs. Some were spermists and others were ovists. So further, it came further anatomical and the descriptive studies followed by the Malpighi, and in the beginning Aristotle in the 4th century BC, he said the concept of epigenesis. So that means maybe there are reproductive strategies or cell division patterns or placental functions which may be playing role in the development. Whereas in 1600s the concept came by William Harvey and Malpighi that ex ovo omnia, which means everything originates from an egg. And the first microscopy studies, the Malpighi showed the description of the chick development. So in 1700, this discussion and debate happened around these two different groups, the epigenesis and preformationalist group, whereas in 1820, the guy Pander, he came into existence and he described the three germ layers and the first indication of induction, and he gave epigenesis concepts which further were substantiated by the others. So Aristotle considered two basic developmental questions. So before in BC itself, Aristotle came with these questions: do all parts of a developing organism come into existence together and simply grow larger? Maybe they come together and then they become bigger. Or is development a stepwise process characterized by progressive organization and increase in the complexity? So these two questions popped in his mind, which initiated this subject of developmental biology. So these two questions are nothing but the concepts of preformation versus epigenesis. So what is preformation all about? The preformation is nothing but the organism is preformed as a complete miniature structure either in the sperm or in the egg, and simply it grows larger as it develops, whereas this means that the first human would have to have the succeeding generations within itself. So it's kind of a Russian doll, a sort of doll which all look similar and they may originate from each other. So that means the individual is preformed before itself in the miniature structure form, either in the sperm or in the egg. The epigenesis talk about the organism development in a stepwise fashion from an unorganized state. So the Aristotle believed that the embryo was formed from the menstrual blood as a result of the blood's interaction with a male factor, which he called it as a male dynamic, and that was present in the semen part of the men. So his observations gave this concept of epigenesis, and that would not be used until the mid of 17th century. So the main person who came with this epigenesis concept was the Christian Heinrich Pander. He is so-called the father of embryology, and he also explored the various different fields such as zoology, geology, anatomy, and osteology. He was born in Russia, in Latvia, uh, the city named Riga, and he was born on 24th of July 1794. So Pander did his research in University of Würzburg, and he is best remembered for his studies which explain the structure of chick blastoderm. So he also used the term the chick and the eggs, and he coined the term chick blastoderm. So blastoderm is nothing but it is the outermost cellular layer of the embryo, which Pander believed that it contributed to the embryonic development. So when he studied this blastoderm role in the early embryonic development, he described that there are three layers: the outer layer, middle layer, and inner layer, which are formed, and he described them in detail. So then he said, while only being able to conclude that development of blood vessels occurred from the middle layer. So he said that the blood vessels in these chicks, from the middle layer of the blastoderm, the blood vessels originate. So this was very important event of the embryonic development, followed thereafter because Pander's discovery and his recognition of the blastocyst and these layered structures, the inner layer, outer layer, and the middle layer, were very valuable, and this further gave guidance to his colleagues, embryologists such as the von Baer. So like I said, so he was from Russia, and the Heinz Christian Pander, and he discovered the three germ layers that formed during the embryogenesis. So these are the germ layers. So this is the early stages of organogenesis. He showed this. There are different layers: the ectoderm, the mesoderm, and the endoderm. So these are the three layers which he discussed, and further they gives rise to different organ systems during the late embryogenesis. So his studies were marvelous on chicken eggs, which allowed us to understand these three layer system: the ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. So due to his initial findings of these blastoderm, so he is referred to as father of embryology. Further, followed by him, the Ernst von Baer principles came into existence, wherein he described the anatomical and the descriptive studies by which he showed that he gave various concepts. So let's go one by one. So first is, he said that the general features of the large group, so for example it's vertebrates, so the general features of the large groups appear in development than the specialized features of the small group. So the general features of bigger group, all the vertebrates, appear earlier, much earlier in development than the specialized features of the smaller group. So that means all the embryos would look very similar after gastrulation and then developed into the specialized features typical of class order. The anatomical and descriptive studies which developed the specialized features of typical class, order, and species. So as we progress further, we can easily classify them based upon class, order, and species, and all the vertebrates have the same early development structures, such as they have gills, or they have arches, they have notochords, they have primitive kidneys. All these features are from the general features of the large group. The second concept was, he said, less general characters are developed from the more general until most of the specialized features appear. So that means among this large group of vertebrates, so all vertebrates initially will have a skin, and only later the skin will specialize to form scales. So some organisms may have scales, some may have feathers, some may have hair, some may have claws, and further the limb development is the same in vertebrates. So after the limb, they may become wings, they may become a leg, or they may become an arm or a webbed foot. So here, the more general features, here you can see very clearly. So the duck and the chicks. So the duck may have the specific webbed foot, whereas the chick may have just the without webs, the foot without webs. So initially both the buds look very similar, but as they grow, the more specialized features starts appearing in the later stage. So in this case, this picture very clearly demonstrates that from fish to salamander to the tortoise, chicken, pig, cow to human, all the embryos look very similar. So they have the pharyngeal arches or the gill which are present in all these vertebrates, and they have the vertebral column. So these all the general features are very similar, and you cannot distinguish which species it is at this stage of development. But when they grow further, they will have specialized features which they may have acquired, and on the basis of which we can distinguish each of these species. The third concept which von Baer gave is that the embryo of a given species depart from the adult stages of lower animals rather than through them. So therefore, he said the early embryo of higher animals is never like the lower adult animal, but only its early embryo. Only the embryo stage, they all look very similar, no matter they are early higher animals or the lower animals. So the embryo look all similar, but it is not that the embryo of the higher animal would look like a lower animal, adult animals shape. So they are so distinct from each other. And the visceral cleft of the embryonic birds or mammals do not resemble the gill slits of adult fish, and rather they resemble the visceral cleft of the embryonic fish and the other embryonic vertebrates. So these are further specialized to form the gills in fish and the eustachian tubes in animals or the mammals, and the human embryos would never pass through a stage equivalent to the adult fish or the bird. So rather they initially share the characteristics only with the embryo. So only all these things suggest that the embryo would look very similar, but as we grow and the later stage of organogenesis, your more specialized features start appearing and they would look very different from each other. So this is the similar picture wherein you can see the C. elegans or a Drosophila, here the egg versus the adult, and this is a fish. And similarly, there are other animals also. We see that in the early stages we are unable to distinguish which animal it is from.